Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, All About the Goddess. The Goddess Next Door bears all in the art studio to catch a campus stalker in this action-packed ISIS series mystery. Get your copy of ISIS, All About the Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. A black woman in Kansas City is being accused of stabbing a white male paramedic to death in an ambulance as he was tending to an injury on her hand.
This is breaking news from KMBC 9.
We begin with breaking news. A Kansas City firefighter paramedic is dead after being stabbed in the line of duty. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jackson Kurtz. Graham Hoffman was just 29 years old. He'd been with KCFD for about 3 years. Kansas City, Missouri police arrested the suspect, Shanetta Bazell. She faces several charges, including first-degree murder and armed criminal action. It happened after firefighters went to the area of North Oak Trafficway and Highway 152 around 1 a.m. this morning to respond to a medical call. As they were helping Bazell, they say she stabbed Hoffman in the chest, piercing his heart. Police arrested Bazell and EMS took Hoffman to North Kansas City Hospital. He died this afternoon. Earlier today, KCPD and KCFD led a procession from North Kansas City Hospital to the medical examiner's office in Kansas City, Kansas. There was a full escort with officers and motorcycles and ambulances. After this, the Clay County Prosecutor's Office held a press conference to update people on the situation. KMBC 9's Jarissa White was there and joins us now live tonight. Jarissa, so much more information. What more do we know about the suspect?
Yeah, Jackson, well, we've since learned more details since that press conference. We learned the suspect's name and we learned her lengthy criminal rap sheet. And now the only question remains is how did a routine transport turn deadly?
Police tell us around 1 a.m. KCPD and KCFD was dispatched.
Dispatch, send someone that way for medical team.
They tell us that they arrived on scene and saw a woman we now know as Shanetta Bazell, pictured here, walking on the shoulder of Highway 152 near Oak Trafficway. She had a laceration to her finger. While being transported, things turned deadly.
Yes, EMS ASAP. My partner's been stabbed.
In a press conference by the Clay County Prosecutor's Office, they detail the turn of events.
Our office will use all legal, moral, and ethical tools at our disposal to ensure justice for Graham, his family, and our entire community.
They say the ambulance they were following behind pulled over to the side of the road. Officers say they witnessed a struggle between Bazell and KCFD paramedic Graham Hoffman. Officers called for more assistance.
Medic 14 has a crew member that's been stabbed.
After realizing Graham had been stabbed in the chest during the struggle.
Life-saving efforts were performed in the emergency room, and he was placed in the ICU, where he later succumbed to his injuries.
Now the question remains how a routine transport turned fatal.
This is something totally new for the fire department, to have this sort of violent act. It's not uncommon to have a patient maybe be unruly. It's understandable. Sometimes things are going on, but to have something of this extent I've never seen anything like it.
Now, the Clay County Prosecutor's Office says that Shanetta Bazell is being held on a $1 million bond. Reporting live in Liberty, Jarissa White, KMBC 9 News.
All right, Jarissa, thank you. And as Jarissa mentioned, this is not Bazell's first run-in with the law. She was charged just last week in connection with allegedly attacking an off-duty officer. The officer said he attempted to detain Bazell, who allegedly resisted, grabbed his handcuffs, and tried multiple times to reach for a knife attached to his chest, to his vest, while attempting to call for help. On his police radio, the officer reported that Bazell bit his left forearm and refused to let go.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in Kansas City, Missouri, 39-year-old Shanetta Bazell allegedly was seen wandering along a highway and bleeding heavily from her hand at 1 o'clock in the morning. And as Kansas City police saw her wandering along this highway, bleeding heavily from her hand early in the morning, this is where police looked to try to get her some help. And as they looked to get her some help, they then contacted a member of the Kansas City Fire Department, EMS, to try to take her to a hospital because that's what she agreed to. And as she agreed to be taken to the hospital, she was inside of the ambulance with 29-year-old Graham Hoffman, a 29-year-old paramedic and firefighter from the Kansas City Fire Department, when, as he was looking to try to tend to this wound on her hand, she allegedly got into an altercation with Graham Hoffman and allegedly pulled out a knife and allegedly stabbed Graham Hoffman in the heart. And this caused the vehicle to swerve, and as police were tailing the vehicle, they wound up swerving and then eventually stopping. And as they opened up the back doors, the other colleague who was inside of the vehicle's back said she had a knife. Now, as Graham Hoffman was bleeding heavily from the chest, Boswell tried to fight police and then tried to drive off with the ambulance, biting an officer on the arm as he drew his weapon, and eventually police officers were able to subdue her before she could take the vehicle and take it out and possibly drive it away. And after they wound up putting her in handcuffs and getting her subdued, they eventually wound up having to take Graham Hoffman to the hospital, and sadly he was pronounced dead when he was brought to the hospital, and that's where Shanetta Boswell was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and is right now being held with a $1 million bond, and is also being charged with resisting arrest and third-degree assault. Now, the Kansas City police see the alleged behavior of Shanetta Boswell as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of Shanetta Boswell's alleged behavior, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis. And Shanetta Boswell definitely fits that pattern and profile of feminist indoctrinated women who were children of the corn, and her whole behavior shows me the kind of behavior a family member was telling me about regarding many of these children of the corn who grew up in families where they had no father, had no sort of structure, no sort of leadership, and because they had no sort of family order or structure, they basically grew up with like stalks, and as they grew up like stalks, they entered into places like classrooms without ever understanding that they needed to respect authority figures. And because they never learned how to respect authority figures due to the backwards way we wound up disciplining children in public schools for the last 30 to 40 years, what happened is girls like Shanetta Boswell, when they were young, they were not disciplined and taught penalties for participating in behaviors that violated the rules. No, what happened to these type of children when they were young was they were basically coddled and enabled to continue participating in their out-of-control behavior, whether it be acting out in the classroom, whether it be throwing chairs, whether it be breaking iPads and laptops because they were in their feelings when they were young. Instead of giving these children discipline like things like suspensions or even getting them counseling if they were abused, what many public schools did was warehouse these children by putting them in a room with a social worker, fed them cookies, and had them watch videos or play video games. That's what they would do to deal with these children and their out-of-control behavior. And instead of setting boundaries as related to having them be able to function within the structures of society, these type of children basically, again, never understood that they had to behave in society. And that's what happened here with Shanetta Boswell. She's definitely one of these children of the corn who's completely grown up. And this child of the corn who's all grown up has a possible lengthy arrest record, and possibly has it because she's gone out here and just a couple days before, again, attacked a police officer by biting that police officer. And this is the type of behavior that these children of the corn have been participating in ever since they've been young. They've been participating in this behavior without ever having to deal with any sort of consequences because many in the public school system, they don't want to deal with the single mothers who basically raise these type of children because they're basically extremely wild. And what we have is from one generation of children of the corn begetting another generation of children of the corn. And instead of these children being able to learn how to function in society, they just basically are running wild. And that's basically what's happened here with Shanetta Boswell. She was running wild. Again, she's running wild because she has no real understanding of how to function in a society as related to respecting authority. That was something she was never taught by her mother. And as she wasn't taught by her mother, this almost 40-year-old woman is now out here again showing how little regard she has for authority, because she basically again bit a police officer. And after she bit a police officer, again, what's really troubling to me is that this woman was able to get bailed out on bond with just $10,000. And I don't even know where she got the $10,000. But the thing is that she got bailed out of jail. And as she got bailed out of jail, she continued to participate in extremely erratic and out of control behavior, and was seen wandering on a highway, again, with a blood from her hand and carrying a knife. And that shows me that this woman never really had any sort of life with any sort of structure or any sort of order. No, she had no understanding of how to even function in society whatsoever, and that's all due to the complete collapse of the American family, that basically was instituted by the wealthy. The wealthy instituted this complete breakdown of the family, hoping that they could profit as related to their businesses by making consumers. But sadly, what they've produced are these children of the corn, who never got any sort of discipline or structure taught to them by their mothers or their fathers, because the wealthy wanted the father out of the home so that he would not establish his own order, and he wanted the mother out here working. And in some cases, when it came to many of these mothers, they just did not know how. They were so busy working, or they were caught up in things like drugs and alcohol, they weren't able to care for their children. And as their children grew up out here over the last 40 to 60 years, again, they basically grew up wild. And as they grew up wild, they have no understanding of how to work in a society. I mean, what's happened here with this woman shows me that this woman was raised with absolutely no home training whatsoever. She was raised with absolutely no home training whatsoever because she just defied authority figures like police officers. She defied an EMS person who was just trying to help her, and had this weapon on her, sort of like a barbarian in some ways. I mean, this chick was just basically off the hook and completely out of control as I see it. I mean, this is again what our society has bred as related to over 60 years of feminism. This is the type of woman that has been bred, again, completely out of control, and was just out here doing whatever she pleased, and because she had never been taught any sort of accountability or any sort of responsibility for others. Because if you'll attack a police officer, again, that shows you have no regard for authority and you have no understanding of how to respect authority figures. This is something that your first teacher, your mother, teaches you. I mean, a mother is the one who's supposed to teach you to respect authority first with the father of that home, and it's supposed to teach you how to respect authority as related to the classroom with your teachers. But this woman was never taught to respect any sort of authority. Moreover, what happened with this woman is, as she was possibly in public schools, she was conditioned not to learn how to respect authority figures like teachers, because they enabled her behavior. And looked to pacify her as related to her acting out in class. And then when she entered into the adult world, she wasn't able to function in life. Because she didn't learn the basics about how to function in life. And that's why this dysfunctional woman was wandering on a road with a bloody hand and carrying this knife. I mean, this whole situation was quite disturbing, but it's a textbook example of what happens when you just destroy the American family. When you destroy the American family, you have women like this, who basically cause chaos cause chaos wherever they go. And as they cause chaos wherever they go, they basically lead to people having their lives put at risk. And that's what sadly happened here to these first responders. This EMT who was just trying to do his job. I mean, this guy was just trying to do his job and trying to help this woman as related to tending to this cut that she had on her finger, and looking to again try to keep her in a place where he could try to preserve her physical health. But sadly, this woman's possible mental health had already been damaged because of the dysfunctional way she had been raised, and raised based on ideals that were created in this country over 60 years ago by a group of wealthy people who wanted to push an ideology that women could be strong and independent, did not need a man, and that a woman could raise children on her own. But the only children that they raise are these children of the corn. And these children of the corn, as they grow up to become adults, they don't go out here and become functional adults. No, they become maladjusted, malfunctioning adults. And that can be seen in the picture of this woman, who basically is looking like she's one of these wig-wearing, weave-wearing females who is just basically was out here, possibly could not get the weave or the wig back on, because we see that patches of her hair are pulled out from we're just wearing this weave in an obsessive compulsive way. But I look at this woman and I see that there's either something wrong with her mental health or something wrong as related to her possibly having some sort of addiction, because again, you come out of jail and then you go right back to participating in erratic behavior, and that really shows me that there's something wrong here. And sadly, as there's something wrong with this woman, she possibly won't get any help, because she just murdered a white man, and after this black woman murdered a white man, she's not going to be on a road where she's going to get bail at this time. No, she's held on $1 million bond, because she's been seen as a clear and present danger, and with there being irrefutable evidence of her participating in this crime, possibly recorded in the back of that vehicle, and a witness that saw it, this woman is going to go from being wandering the streets, and again only had to deal with a $10,000 bond, which I just find mind-boggling that she got for attacking a police officer, because had this been a black man, he definitely would be in jail right now with no bail for assaulting a police officer. But with this black woman, I believe she got a pass for being black and female. But the whole thing is, what happened here is that this woman is now going to go from, again, having to deal with an assault and possibly a hearing in that case, to now dealing with a first-degree murder charge as related to the murder of this EMT, and will possibly wind up in prison for the rest of her life. In the rest of her life, dealing with Betty, Martha, and Big Lou inside of the female penitentiary, playing spades for commissary. That's the fate that this black woman is going to suffer inside of this penitentiary. But our society is going to suffer even worse, and our society is going to suffer even worse because in the case of our society, we are suffering because there are more women like this out here, more of these children of the corn. These children of the corn, sadly, that are getting older. I mean, this is an almost 40-year-old woman who didn't know how to function because of the complete dysfunctional family system she was raised in due to 60 years of white feminism and corporate America looking to, again, socially engineer consumers. But there's just producing dysfunctional adults that don't know how to function and don't profit society. That's what we're getting from our culture. Our culture is not producing healthy adults and healthy people, and it's really, we're not talking about this. I mean, that's the sad part. We're not talking about the sad part about these women in crisis, because their moral position is why our nation is going in a bad direction we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about how many of these women out here don't know how to function, and they don't know how to function because they were not raised in functional families. And instead of them being raised in functional families where they could grow up to become healthy adults, they grow up to become girls who become children of the corn, who eventually grow up to become women in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of a woman in crisis, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Grab the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me continue to make videos about the woman crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.